What's up, Pass Rush family? You know, years ago, when I thought about pass rush in 2001, I thought about the impact that it one day will have on the National Football League and football, at all levels. The reason why, one day, and it was like 2000, I think, somewhere around 2000, maybe even 99, probably 2000, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, sitting on the couch on injured reserve. So I was watching Inside the NFL, something like that on HBO. So as I started looking at this show, they were talking about this quarterback guru who had kind of created a trend of training quarterbacks. His name was Steve Clarkson. And Steve Clarkson, as I'm sitting there, I had been training pass rushers as a player. When I was with the Falcons in the offseason, I would help work with pass rushers from other NFL teams. I would sit down and talk to coaches and things like that, even as a player. So I'm sitting on the couch. I'm about to be retired, all right? Last year number 9, I'm on IR, I'm at Carolina. And I was sitting there, and my wife said, "Babe, that's what you do right now. You're teaching pass rushers just like he's doing, but he's getting paid." So I sat there and I thought, well, if the number one position in the NFL is quarterback, then the number 2 has to be the pass rusher that gets to the quarterback. And it really just blew me away. And I went into a fevered pitch. I just got chill bumps on my skin realizing that, wow, no one has ever put a price tag on a quarterback's head, not literally a bounty, but created a program that's specifically designed, position specific for pass rushers, meaning everybody in the front 7. Pass rush affects the defensive ends, defensive tackles, nose guards, linebackers, in and out. So I subsequently started my company started training, and I wanted to come up with a name that was something that was signature to defensive line play. The first company I ever started, and the name of my first company was D-Line U, DLU, D-Line University. And I'm always proud now that there are hundreds now of D-Line U's, D-Line this, D-Line that. It's pretty cool to see, Pass Rush U. And then later on, subsequently, 2-3 more years later, I changed to D-Line Inc. because it was a business. I was incorporated. It was a business, right? D-Line Inc. So I started training just on the floor. Hundreds of hours training youth kids, high school kids, NFL kids. In the beginning, it wasn't just you get a chance to train like guys like Aaron Donald, Von Miller, for that matter, or be a consultant, with the Bengals, or going in to speak to Clemson, and having relationships with all these NFL teams. There are a lot of negativity when it came to trainers and anybody that wasn't a position-specific coach. And what that means is you're paid by a college, high school team, or NFL team. If you weren't sitting around the big table, as college coaches do every day when they sit in their meetings, people didn't really think kindly on a person that's a specialist coming from the outside, giving information that a lot of people might not necessarily understood or agreed with. Now, this is 2002, 2003. And there were no more guys, I was the only guy out there doing what I'm doing. There was only one quarterback guy, Steve Clarkson, and there was me. And there was no linebacker U, there was no foot doctor. Shout out to the foot doctors. There was no Samurai Sacks. It was just one guy, and there was no Dr. Rush, because I wasn't called Dr. Rush. That came later on, where that was given to me as a nickname, which is really a nickname. But so I would go to NFL coaches and say, "Hey, check this out. I got something I can do to improve your production, improve your players' production," because pass rush is about production. It's not about moves. It's not about looking pretty. It's all about improving production. And that's one thing I always appreciate. Mike Tomlin years ago once said, "Hey, Chuck, you're right. It's all about production, not, So I really always appreciate that, Mike T. So during that time, they wouldn't listen to me. They wouldn't give me a chance. They didn't want to hear, man, pass rush is coming. One day you're going to have to develop pass rushes to close games down. One day you're going to have to develop pass rush movement to improve your players getting off of run blocks. Think about that. The quicker you can get off blocks with signature movement and changing direction hips, the better you are against the run. That's the evolution we're still working on now, particularly with the run pass options, the RPOs and things that, that's kind of the new wave that I'm focused on. But all the old coaches would say, and this is an old guard, there are no 32-year-old D-line coaches in the NFL at this time. There are no 35-year-old D-line head coaches in the NFL, or really in college. A gang of old guys, and I call that the prehistoric Neanderthal level of defensive line coaches and defensive line culture. And all they would say to me is, well, you got to stop the run. I got you. Okay, coach, third downs are coming. It's important to develop these guys. Third down, you see Peyton Manning, you see these teams are coming up throwing the ball 3 and 4 wide. You got to be able to, get after them. Well, here come and all the coaches would say, well, you got to stop the run. And to me, there's a generation of coaches, all they said is stop the run because of the era they came out of. In the 80s and early 90s, it was all about run. People had 2 tight ends. People were, running big boy ball, things like that. So I understand that, why the coaches were that way. And there was this code, it was like this code of support they had within each other that even though they might not necessarily like what you're saying, they would never take coaching from you because all the other coaches were thinking that, well, he's an outsider, doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, if he's not an NFL coach, if he's not a college coach, an SEC coach, or Pac-12, he must not be better than we are just because we're coaches. So moving forward, they kept saying, play the run, play the run, play. Get out of here. It's a B. Play the run, play the run, play the run. And that, when I used to hear guys back in the day say play the run, those were always the coaches that had no idea, didn't have a system to develop a pass rusher. Didn't have a system. So moving forward, throughout the 2004, 5, 6, I'm training pass rushers. I get some good ones. I pop in, I get to work with Albert Haynesworth, 2007 Defensive Player of the Year. What a guy to work with. All in between, I'm working with guys that are Pro Bowlers. I'll get to work with Osi Umenyiora. Boom, we get some good work in. Moving forward, I get, the blessings of working with some really good ones from 10 all the way down to colleges, all the way up to Aaron Donald, to Von Miller, to some Max Crosby, some of the young guys even of today that are really good players. Even getting a chance to work as a camp coach and consultant with the Bengals, working with the just lots of different teams. And it brings me to this. Pass rush is relevant, and it's the number 2 most important skill to develop, and that's building a pass rusher from scratch. You want to become a great defensive line coach? Learn this philosophy. We're going to play the run, but stopping the run is a product of putting 7 guys in the box. No one man can stop the run. But on 3rd and long, when you see they got 4 wides out, 1 pass rusher can destroy an offense, can destroy a team's passing game. So I appreciate y'all checking out what I'm talking about here, and that's the philosophy of what I believe, and that's how I got to be where I am. A lot of stuff in between, but you guys follow me on my YouTube page, Chuck Smith Training on my YouTube page, Chuck Smith NFL on Twitter, and Chuck Smith Training Systems on Instagram, okay? All right, check me out. Get the quarterback.